In the next few videos, we're going to go over the genetic code. In this video, we're going to talk about the Central Dogma, the Triplet Code, as well as Wobble Pairing. Okay, so the Central Dogma of molecular biology. It's generally written as DNA to RNA to proteins. There are a few things I want to talk about. So first of all, it's not just DNA to RNA to proteins. Another aspect of the Central Dogma is DNA to DNA. So this is DNA replication. DNA to RNA, this is called transcription. And RNA to protein, this is called translation. So these three processes are considered the central dogma of molecular biology, that you can turn DNA into DNA using replication, you can turn DNA into RNA using transcription, and you can turn RNA into protein using translation. Now, as it turns out, there are other ways that we can maneuver between DNA, RNAs, and proteins. So these are considered special cases or exceptions. So there are two exceptions you want to be familiar with. The first is that RNA can be reverse transcribed to DNA. And of course, the famous enzyme for this is reverse transcriptase. So reverse transcriptase will turn RNA into DNA. The other exception is that RNA can be copied to RNA. Now, we can't do this as eukaryotes, but there are some viruses that are capable of this. So these viruses have an RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. So that means that these enzymes will use RNA as a template to produce RNA. So essentially making copies of RNA from RNA. Okay, so this is the central dogma. So far we've looked at replication. We're now going to look more at how transcription and translation works. As we know, DNA is nucleotides, right? Your A, G, C, and T. When we get to RNA, it's still nucleotides. It's now A, G, C, U, since uracil has been replaced by thymine. But there's still a bit of a gap here because proteins are made of amino acids, and there are 20 different amino acids. So how we get from nucleotides to amino acids is what we're going to discuss. So the way it works is there's a triplet code. So ribosomes are responsible for translating mRNA into proteins. And the way ribosomes work is that they translate mRNA 3 nucleotides at a time. So essentially they'll look at 3 nucleotides, and whatever those 3 nucleotides are, it will tell the ribosome which amino acid to add. And the way that works is that, well, first, these nucleotide triplets, these are called codons. So essentially, each codon will code for a particular tRNA or a stop signal. So the codons, they're going to be complementary to what is called an anticodon. The anticodon is on tRNA. Right? So tRNA is another RNA molecule. So since it's made of RNA, it's possible for it to have nitrogenous bases in its anticodon that can be complementary to the codon. So essentially, depending on what the codon is, that will recruit the appropriate tRNA with the complementary anticodon. Each tRNA is going to carry with it an amino acid. So that will essentially determine which amino acids get added to the protein, or if you have the codons that signal for the end of translation, then you will terminate translation instead. Now, an interesting thing about this codon is that the codon has 3 nucleotides, and we know in terms of nucleotides, there are 4. So with 4 nucleotides and 3 nucleotides in each codon, then you have a total of 4 times 4 times 4, or 64 possible codons. And we don't have 64 amino acids, we only have 20 amino acids. So this tells us that the genetic code is redundant. There has to be some redundancy in the genetic code, meaning that there has to be multiple codons that code for the same amino acid, and that indeed is correct. Now, to get to some specifics of codons, you don't need to have them all memorized for the MCAT. You can actually see the diagram of all of the codons right here, right? So you can see all 64 combinations, and you can see for different combinations you can get different amino acids. You can also see that there are multiple codons for several amino acids. So some of the amino acids are coded by 2 codons or 3 codons or 4 codons, and some are also coded by a single codon. Now again, you don't need to have all of those codons memorized for MCAT. There are 2 specific types of codons that you do need to know, and that is the start codon as well as the stop codons. There's only one start codon, and it is AUG. So AUG codes for methionine. So that you'll want to have memorized. For stop codons, there are 3 stop codons: UAA, UGA, and UAG. One helpful mnemonic for memorizing the stop codons is you are annoying, you go away, you are gone. All right, so again, you are annoying, you go away, you are gone. That's a helpful mnemonic for memorizing the stop codons. Unlike the start codon, the stop codons do not code for an amino acid. So that actually means of the 64 codons, 3 of them being stop codons don't code for an amino acid. So that means only 61 codons code for an amino acid. All right, so now that we're starting to understand how it's possible for us to get from nucleotides to amino acids, let's talk more about this redundancy. The basis for this redundancy is this concept of wobble pairing. And again, the idea is that multiple codons can code for the same amino acid. And the reason why that's the case is because in the codon, the third base pair is flexible. So usually when we think about sequences binding to each other, we say that the sequences have to be complementary to each other. And that's true, the codon and anticodon need to be complementary. But the third base pair in the codon is flexible, which means it can at times bind to more than one base pair. And when you're binding to more than one base pair, then you're not following Watson-Crick base pairs, which is cytosine has to bind to guanine and adenine has to bind to uracil. So since you're having additional base pairs, that's what wobble pairing refers to, non-Watson-Crick base pairing. So here are the different types of wobble pairings, and here you can see codon and anticodon. And of course for the codon, this is referring to the third codon, third nucleotide in the codon, and here is the anticodon. So in the anticodon, since the nucleotides, when they're complementary, they have to be anti-parallel to each other, this would be referring to the first nucleotide in the anticodon. But the point here you can see is that in the third codon, cytosine, uracil, and adenine can all bind to inosine. Now inosine we haven't discussed before. Inosine is a modified nitrogenous base that can occur in tRNAs. So they can essentially take their nitrogenous base and modify it into inosine. And inosine can bind to 3 different types of base pairs in the codon. So that's what allows for the redundancy. So whether a code has C or U or A in the third base pair, if there's an inosine, that tRNA can bind to all 3 of those codons. Another relevant example is if the third nucleotide is a uracil, it can bind not only to adenine, but it can also bind to guanine. So that also supplies some redundancy. And in this diagram, you can see an example. So in this example, we're looking at tRNAs for leucine. And you can see within the codons, we have 2 different codons for leucine, and it's the same tRNA that's binding to both. So one of the binding, that's a traditional Watson-Crick base pairing, but you can see in the other example where the tRNA is binding, we have an example of wobble pairing. So again, wobble pairing does provide the basis for how we can have redundancy in our genetic code.